Evil sorcerers are going to blot out the sun in Illinois.
I don't think that's happening.
What can we do? What can we do about it?
Dramatic.
We'll find out next because John and Nancy are still talking. In fact, evil sorcerers are not going to blot out the sun.
No.
It's actually a natural phenomenon called a total eclipse. And let me tell you something. We're getting another one in Illinois, and we haven't had one not that long ago. We had another one. Renee Kerrigan's joining us. She's the curator of science and the planetarium director at the Peoria Riverfront Museum.
John was all excited about the last one. You went down to Southern Illinois. You were pumped.
Oh, it's fantastic. So Renee was on the show before that one.
Yeah.
And when was that, Renee? 2017?
2017, yeah, that was August 21st, 2017, and there hasn't been another one that's been close to us since that time, but we're in luck because April 8th, it's happening again.
It's so cool, and that doesn't happen very often, right? Because the next one's not till
2033, is that what I read?
Or more, 2045 or something?
So a total solar eclipse can occur someplace on the planet roughly every 6 months. But what is really rare is that it's accessible to you. You know, most of our planet is covered in the ocean. So a lot of times you would have to, get on a boat and go to the middle of the ocean, or you might have to be on the other side of the planet to see a total solar eclipse. You always have to travel to see it. So what's rare is when the path that you need to travel to see the eclipse is close to where we live.
Yeah,
and that happened in 2017, and it's happening again in 2024.
It's awesome, and it sure did. So this is my Renee Kerrigan story. So Renee was on the show prior to that last eclipse, and we talked all about it and everything. And I went down to Carbondale and watched it, and it's jaw-droppingly, insanely cool.
Yeah, my son went too, and he loved it.
It's so cool. And so Renee was about 9 months pregnant. Is that correct?
I was, yes. I had my baby, and her name is Stella. She's 6 now. And she was born exactly 2 weeks after the 2017 total solar eclipse.
You were not missing it, though, right?
So here's a curator of science and planetarium director, Renee Kerrigan, going, I'm not missing this thing. And everybody from her obstetrician to her husband to everybody said, don't get into a car and drive because you probably have your baby in a parking lot somewhere, but you went anyway, didn't you?
I did. I went and saw the eclipse, and I was technically not supposed to travel, but I just looked up where the hospitals were close to where I was going to be, and everything was fine.
Be prepared.
Right, everything was fine.
So you saw the eclipse, right? And it was a total eclipse, completely blots out the sun, right? It was an amazing experience. Right. So I just want to pick your brain. What was that the first time you saw totality?
That was the first time I saw totality, and then I'm lucky because I had an opportunity to travel to see another one. So I saw my second one in 2019, but I went to South America to see it. I was in Chile in 2019 and saw that total solar eclipse. So fingers crossed for clear skies on April 8th, and that will be my third.
So the first time you saw the totality, what about the experience? One thing about the experience that happened that you didn't expect? I
didn't anticipate, even though I had been teaching people about what to expect. I was gobsmacked by how dark it got. It's not as dark as midnight when you're in totality. It doesn't get completely dark like it gets in the middle of the night, but it got very dark in the middle of the day. And I remember I kept on repeating, do you see how dark it is? And my friends who I was with were, yes, we see how dark it is. But I was just so shocked. And also it got significantly cooler for those 3 minutes in the middle of the day. And that's just it's a really bizarre experience and inspiring, there's nothing else like it. It's just so unusual to experience that change in light and temperature in the middle of the day.
How did number 1 and 2 differ, or were they very similar when you were, when you saw them?
They did differ. For number 2, I was on a beach in La Serena, Chile, and so the thing that was the most fun about that was I was with a lot of other people, and I didn't know them necessarily. I was traveling, but it was this party atmosphere. There was a lot of people who were all enjoying the same thing, and it was that shared experience is really fun and special. I do think the second one, I spent a little bit too much time trying to decide if the star I was looking at was the planet Mars or the star Antares, and that I maybe distracted myself during totality a little too much. So my advice is always to just try to take it all in, because totality usually lasts 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It's not very much time. I don't recommend trying to fool with a camera unless you're a really good photographer. Somebody else is going to take a better picture than what you're managing to take. So I recommend just trying to experience it in those minutes as fully as you can.
Renee Kerrigan is the Curator of Science and Planetarium Director at the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Now, when I was down there in Carbondale, and it was an amazing day. It was crystal clear. You're exactly right that it gets dark, which is weird. It gets colder, which is weird. And then the other phenomenon that I didn't expect, Renee, and maybe you can explain to me why this happens. So the sky is dark, but 360 degrees, the horizon is lit up. That was so weird. It was like
there's this really beautiful sort of sunset colors that happen but it's not like a sunset because the sun is still in the sky. It's just covered up. So it's sort of this halo of sunset colors that happen around the sun, and that's really amazing.
It was amazing. It really was. And so this year, April 8th is when it's happening, and I guess it's still in the afternoon, right? It's like 2:30 in the afternoon or something?
That's right. If you do travel to Carbondale, totality is from 1:59 to 2:03 in the afternoon. And it's just lucky that Carbondale is in both of these paths. So most of the time, that's very rare. The path of the eclipse changes every time there's an eclipse. And it just so happens that it crosses in southern Illinois in Carbondale. So you could travel to southern Illinois to see this eclipse, or you could travel to Indiana close by to see the eclipse. Indianapolis is in the eclipse path as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, so
and
pick a location and go, because, as Renee said, it's so worth it. It's so worth a couple hours drive to sit through this thing, because it's an experience that, we probably won't, unless you travel and go to South America or something like some lucky people get to do.
Yeah.
You won't see another one. You probably only get one.
The next one that will cross the United States is in 2045.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty rare chance that there's one that's this close by, this accessible to so many people here in Central Illinois.
So at the planetarium there at the Riverfront Museum, it's a beautiful planetarium. If you haven't been, go, because we've got a real gem of a planetarium here in our city. I know you did a talk all about this last eclipse leading up to it. Are you guys doing similar programming heading into this one?
Yeah, we sure are. There's one happening on February 29th. That's a Thursday in the evening at 6:30, and the information's already on our website, riverfrontmuseum.org. And then we also have, every day that we're open at the museum, we have a planetarium show that's all about the eclipse.
Oh, cool.
And they'll tell you what you need to know, how eclipses happen, how to watch it safely. So that's happening on Tuesdays through Sundays at 1 o'clock. So you can see the museum exhibits that we have, which are amazing, as well as visiting the planetarium. It's all included with admission to the museum. And learn about the eclipse at that 1 o'clock show as well.
Very cool. And here's what I learned at the last Renee Kerrigan lecture, which was really cool. Before I saw my first eclipse, I was, we were wondering how you view it safely, right? She just referenced that. So I'm like, well, don't you have to look through all this dark film and all this stuff and everything? And you're like, no, once it hits totality, you can just take off all the glasses and look at it, right? It's really neat.
That's true if you're in the eclipse path, so I should make sure to be clear on that. If you're watching from Central Illinois, from right here in Peoria, you will need to use those eclipse shades the whole time because we don't have totality in Peoria.
Right.
But if you're in the eclipse path, you need to use those shades to watch the partial phase to lead up to it. But for the 3 to 4 minutes of totality when the moon completely blocks the sun. No, you don't need to use those. It's safe to look at the sun, and you should look at it because you're seeing the outer atmosphere of the sun. Do you remember that ghostly white sort of corona, the sun's outer atmosphere that you can see during totality? And you'll miss that if you wear those shades.
Yeah.
So you should take them off during those moments of totality.
And Renee so eloquently said when I asked her about it when she was on the radio show, she's like, well, do you normally stare at the sun? Yeah, then don't.
Exactly. People love their pets. People love, people get concerned about the safety. They're like, but what do I need to do to keep my pet safe during totality or during a solar eclipse? And I've always just tried to gently say, well, if your dog doesn't normally look at the sun,
you're fine.
You don't need to get eclipse shades for your dog, right? But I understand that people just want to keep their loved ones safe, be it their children or their animals. So, but no worries, your animals are all going to be safe during the eclipse.
I remember one time when I was a kid, and I can't even remember where we were. It might have been in Oklahoma. There was an eclipse, but it was where we were just on the very edge of it, so you weren't going to see totality. But my dad made a little pinhole shade camera. You ever seen that?
That's right.
And so it'll make this yellow dot. So and then you can see the moon kind of the shadow slide over.
Oh, very cool.
Through the sun dot.
And you can still do that. It can be a fun. I recommend getting the eclipse shades, which we do have for sale at the museum store. I know they're being sold elsewhere as well, but if you're looking for a place in Peoria, you can come get them at the museum store. I recommend getting those because you can directly look at the sun and it's safe. But it's also fun to use pinhole projectors, and you can see that shadow of the eclipse, as you say, projected onto the ground, onto the side of the building. And you can look at the little dappled sunlight between, like the leaves of a tree, and you will see a bunch of eclipse suns in the shadows under the tree during the partial phases of the eclipse. So that's pretty fun to watch.
All right, Renee Kerrigan, globe-trotting eclipse watcher. Where are you going this year?
Well, this year I'll be going with the museum to Dallas, Texas, because while you can get to the eclipse path in Indiana or southern Illinois, the farther south you are on the path, the more likely you are to have clear skies in April. So we're taking the trip down to Texas. But my family is going to be here in central Illinois, and I'm going to send them over towards southern Illinois or Indiana. So we're excited to watch this eclipse for sure.
April 8th in the afternoon. Southern Illinois is a great place to go. I've been there, done that. Everybody should go try and do it. Renee, travel safely. Thank you for being on the podcast
Renee.
today.
Nice talking with you.
And I hope everybody goes and sees your lecture and the exhibits there at the museum because it really is worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right. So go see the eclipse if you can. I'm going. Nancy, you should go. You should go.
Well, my son is over in Indy,
It's
so I'm
really
thinking
great.
maybe we should make the trip over there.
Yeah, and then after we witness it, we'll all come back and talk about it some more because if you keep listening,
We'll keep talking.
see you next time.
Bye.